The shadows come alive picture. You're hiking through a remote forest when suddenly you hear a sound that doesn't belong. Something big is moving in the shadows. Your heart races as you realize you're face to face with a creature that shouldn't exist anymore. This isn't just a nightmare. It's happening right now in parts of the world. I know it sounds crazy, but scientists have been messing around with de-extinction. They're bringing back animals that died out ages ago. Cool, right? Wrong. Some of these creatures were extinct for a good reason, and now they're loose again. In this video, we're going to look at terrifying beasts that should have stayed in the history books. Trust me, you won't believe what's lurking out there. From Ice Age nightmares to silent killers in the sky, these monsters are giving people real-life scares. Get ready, because this is going to be wild. The Nightmare from the Ice Age. You know how people say monsters aren't real? Well, they haven't met the giant short-faced bear. This thing is straight out of your worst Ice Age nightmares, and some folks swear it's still out there. I first heard about this beast from my buddy who works at a natural history museum. He was telling me about this massive bear skeleton they have, way bigger than any grizzly you've ever seen. We're talking about a predator that stood 12 feet tall on its hind legs and could outrun a horse. Yeah, you heard that right. A bear faster than a horse. Imagine that chasing you down. But here's the really freaky part. This monster wasn't supposed to have gone extinct until about 11,000 years ago. That's recent enough that some people think a few might have survived in remote areas. And let me tell you, there have been some weird sightings. I remember reading about this hiker in northern Canada. He was out in the wilderness, miles from anywhere, when he saw something that made his blood run cold. At first, he thought it was just a really big grizzly, but then it stood up on its back legs and he realized it was way too tall, and its face was all wrong. Shorter snout, more powerful jaw. He said it looked like it could snap a tree in half without breaking a sweat. The hiker bolted, and luckily the thing didn't chase him. But he swears up and down it wasn't any normal bear. When he described it to a local wildlife expert, they couldn't explain it. Some people think he might have actually seen a surviving giant short-faced bear. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could something that big stay hidden for so long? Well, there are a few theories. Some scientists think there might be small populations living in really remote areas, like deep in the Canadian wilderness or parts of Alaska, that are hard to access. These places are so vast and unexplored that it's not impossible for a small group to avoid detection. Another idea is that they might hibernate for super long periods, only coming out every few decades when conditions are right. That could explain why sightings are so rare. But here's the thing that really keeps me up at night. What if they're adapting? What if they've learned to avoid humans and only come out when no one's around? Bears are smart, and this species was a top predator for millions of years. Who knows what survival tricks they might have picked up? The scariest part is thinking about what would happen if you actually ran into one of these things. The giant short-faced bear wasn't just big, it was built to kill. Those long legs meant it could run down pretty much any prey, and its massive jaw could crush bones like they were nothing. If you encountered one in the wild, you'd be totally outmatched. So next time you're out hiking in the backcountry and you hear something big moving in the bushes, just remember, it might not be your average bear. It could be a nightmare from the Ice Age back to reclaim its spot at the top of the food chain. And trust me, you do not want to be around when that happens. And when nightmares become reality. So we've talked about some seriously scary creatures, but here's the thing that really keeps me up at night. What if they're just the beginning? I mean, think about it. If these monsters can come back from extinction, what else might be out there? I remember talking to this scientist who studies this stuff. He told me something that made my skin crawl. He said, "Extinction isn't always permanent. Sometimes life finds a way back." And that's when it hit me. These creatures we've been talking about, they're not just scary stories. They're a wake-up call. Imagine walking down the street and suddenly coming face to face with a saber-toothed tiger. Or swimming at the beach and seeing a shadow in the water that's way too big to be a normal shark. It's not just about being scared anymore. It's about survival.